Gonna fix this camera. Good morning, everybody. Early over here, for me at least. Early to start streaming. 8:24 a.m. Coffee. Ugh. How's everybody doing this? How was the start of the year? Abby. What are you having for dinner, my man? There we go. That's about good. Alright, final thing. Just make sure I can see. Yeah. Old man eyes. Need the help. That sounds delicious. Indian food is definitely one of my favorite foods. I also love Mexican food and Japanese. Those are like my three favorites. When I travel somewhere, it's like the thing I look most forward to doing is eating food from other cultures, stuff that I can't get back at home, especially as good. Yeah. So, welcome to the Big Dad broadcast. I'm doing an early morning stream where, I kind of was ready to go this morning more than before, but we're going to be continuing the live analysis of Egghead Island. We got through a few chapters last stream. We'll see how far we get. But we're just going to go looking through these chapters, looking for anything that catches our eye and that we want to talk about for a while. With some pure white butter. I mean, can't be buttered. So we're starting at 1061 Future Island Egghead. We got the cover story. This was a long cover story, the Emotionless Excursion. Number 66 is escaping, rescuing each other, all that kind of fun stuff. Yes, on a spice level, you could say the Mexican and Indian food. Yeah, I definitely agree. Oh man, I kind of have some shame at this point where it comes from spice, because before kids, and even until my son was at least probably pushing about 2 years old, like I sought out spice. I tried to get spicy food. I didn't shy away from it. I could handle quite a bit. But nowadays, my kids eat what I eat, so they don't like spice. Like, that freaks them out. So I don't get to have spice as much. And then the consequence of this is when I'm not around my kids, I try to have spice because I miss it so much. And it just destroys me. It hurts so bad. But it is still so good. But I haven't quite been able to fully accept that my spice tolerance is totally just fallen apart. Having kids is crazy. I remember when we saw this Vegapunk like shark mech the first time, we didn't know what it was at this point, but this is so like Jaws or something. Obviously Jaws is way smaller, but big things that will kill you underwater, that's like a primal fear for me. I can't play any video games like Subnautica. You're like are having to like swim around underwater and there's like big ass things that want to mess you up. Like, that's some of the scariest stuff for me to try to engage with. Might be kind of tied to like my dad being like kind of like a wacky conspiracy theorist when I was a kid, and having like on the bookshelves there was like The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and then like stuff about like Loch Ness Monster, crazy shit under the sea. And I would open the book and the pictures of these like completely fake monsters that were like under the water and people said existed, like that, I could not hardly look at that book. Even as like a little kid, it freaked me out. Yeah, spice levels in home versus like restaurant food is different. When I was like a spice lord a little bit, I would go to like the Mexican restaurant and I'd be like, order what I normally get, which is like their spiciest thing. And after having it a couple times, the spice didn't really have a big effect on me. So like, they just couldn't push the spice as much because people order it and don't expect it to be so spicy, and then they can't handle it, and then they don't want to come back, or they want their money back or something. I don't know exactly why they do. Yeah, there's been so many times in like restaurants where I'm like, oh, this is a spice, this looks to be the spiciest thing on the menu, I'm gonna get that, and then I get it and okay, that was a little bit disappointing. But at the same time, there have been a few places that I'm assuming that's the way it's going to go, and it did not. And I have been in severe pain. I remember like when I had my honeymoon in Mexico, and I got some food in like this village, and I ate a pepper there, and it literally felt like I pressed my like entire like lips and face against a searing hot pan on the stove. Like my entire lips got like really inflamed. Oh, that was like the hottest thing I've ever eaten. Didn't even know what it was still to this day, because I was in so much pain I didn't even have the time to ask somebody. Oh yeah, if you ask them to lower the spice level, somehow they'll increase it. Yeah, they must take offense to that. I see Oda's art here, and I'm like, man, he could draw scary shit. And then we get to the next page, and it's just like a goofy shark robot. Oh yeah, you've seen it online. We kind of see this like early benefits of not having everybody be a devil fruit user, where Jinbei can just basically save everybody's ass here. Zoro obviously is quite helpful as well. This is looking rough for the Straw Hats in this moment. I mean, wow. So that's Lilith in the Vegapunk 12. Yeah, Jinbei is definitely the dad of the crew. I definitely agree. I love Jinbei's dynamic with the crew. Jinbei might be like the newest member, but man, I do love that guy. We get to visit the old gang from Punk Hazard again. Jiggy, Mocha, and all these other kids. They're getting gradually smaller. This is where we start getting the idea of rescuing Kobe from Hachinosu, which obviously concludes in awesome storytelling, spectacle. Kind of get the idea too here of how much contact they had with Drake, who is undercover as a sword member within Kaido's Beast Pirates. So in this situation, without Garp's input yet, Prince Groose is the de facto leader of at least this little squad of Sword. It's not 100% sure how big Sword is exactly. I don't think it's very big. They basically are like a pirate crew within the Marines. And if I remember correctly, Drake is also a rear admiral. So when he became like an undercover officer for the Beast Pirates for Sword, I wonder if that's when Bruce became the leader and got like a promotion to rear admiral. Yeah, it's a great time to be a Robin fan right now, because Robin is, not the biggest smiler. A lot of smirks. But right now we're seeing Robin smile all the time. Bonnie's back to her quote-unquote normal self and looking like an adult again. Bonnie asks, "What's up with your bounty poster, Luffy? Your hair's like all white and stuff. They're making a big deal over you." And Luffy says, "That's what I look like when I'm free." Like, she's so close to knowing. It drives me crazy. Jinbei asks Bonnie about her crew. Says, "I came here alone. That metal monster ate my ship." Which is so wild that she's sailing in the new world by herself at this point. Probably since Mary Joie, right? Since the Reverie. It was, I think about a week ago in terms of... About a week to 10 days ago in terms of like the One Piece kind of like temporal reality. So this is the government island, Egghead. The place 500 years in the future, they say. So if Egghead Island is, let's be conservative and say it's equivalent to the technology level of the Ancient Kingdom from 900 years ago, pre-Void Century, then within the past 900 years, the world has only been able to make up about half of that. Make up a difference of about 400 years, right? A little bit less even. But with the genius Vegapunk, made a lot of progress. It'd be interesting to find out with the people who are, Emu, who's from the Void Century, probably, right? How much technology they kept from that era, if any at all. In the anime, the only time Robin has her full life is due to Luffy. That is really interesting. I'm gonna have to pay attention to that. In those times, is she doing the Darashi stuff? And here's Dr. Vegapunk, Lilith, and everybody who's like, I don't know, probably Frankie and Robin are the ones that like pretty much know immediately that it's not quite so simple. And I remember at the time when this chapter came out, we had a pretty good idea that there was something fishy going on here because of all the numbers on all the Vegapunk stuff, and Lilith obviously has number 2. And 62. Oh look, we're cruising right along. Cruising right along. I need to read the Alabaster all the way through. I go back and check out some of the big moments, but honestly not 100% sure if I've read it start to finish since that arc lapse. Lilith the Evil. And the level of Lilith's evil is kind of just a showcase of Vegapunk's true nature. Vegapunk is not a very evil dude. Maybe he does a little too much of coulda instead of shoulda. Sometimes his science stuff is more like just like has to like invent things, and he doesn't think about all the consequences. Namely, like how he wants punk records to function basically like a modern internet. We all know while the modern internet is amazing in some, there are some downsides. Some big downsides. But ultimately, the power of like a network like that is that you can connect to people across the world. With the stream right now, you know, I've been talking to Abe in the chat, and you know, India, and that's pretty much halfway around the world, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know my personal feelings on the internet. I do think it's overall like a net good, like the information channels, the level of knowledge on there, the being able to connect to your communities. I mean, or the only people you knew were the people that were just literally around you. And if I could only connect with the people literally around me, like One Piece itself wouldn't mean near as much. In fact, to read One Piece, it would take so much time because I'd have to buy every single volume. But in this digital age, you can read it online for free, or for, what is it, like in America, we have a Shonen Jump subscription, like $2 a month. Kind of highway robbery of monthly subscription. Yeah, I definitely agree that the biggest problem with the internet and a global network like that is that hate can spread faster on the internet as well. that people who would never get radicalized, like people who have fucked up beliefs, they can't as easily find like-minded people, but can very easily create like echo chambers and stuff like that online. Definitely think of why the world government wouldn't want that. Imagine if the internet existed in one piece. The world government would hate that because they want people to have pretty limited information about what happens outside of their island. I don't know if the world has been kind of shaped the way it is, where it's like 95% water, maybe even a higher percentage than that, and the rest of it is just like, in terms of scale, like relatively small islands. I can hear my daughter behind me a little bit, so it's kind of just so in terms of scale, everybody who's not a pirate, not a marine, and marines can't really even go where they want. They have to go where they're told to go. But pirates can go wherever they want. Regular people, they can go wherever they want, but they can't. Like, how are you going to do it? You'd have to have a massive amount of money. Only people that amount of money are basically royalty, big business owners like the News Coup, stuff like that, World Economic Times, or Celestial Drift. Other than that, you have to be a pirate. A ship to sell, you have to get to a place that sells ship. And then ship costs what, 100 million berries, like for a good deal? A brand new ship's gonna cost 200-300 million? Thanks. Yeah, the chaos of the world, put to the side. The world of One Piece, I agree. But I guess part of me is like, how much of that beautiful world is underwater? How much of that beautiful world is not seen by the people in One Piece? It's sad. I mean, at best they can read a book. Not sure how many of those there are. Yeah, these sea beast weapons, pretty badass. I love that some of them are kind of. I like that Shaka is like, hey, you kind of like messed up. Just bring him here. We get a little bit of information about Bonnie and Kuma here. Bonnie says, when I was a kid, it was a normal lab back then. And Jimbei or Luffy says, what did you come back for? Bonnie says at this point he's lost his sense of humanity. He doesn't even know where he is anymore. But Kuma is on his way. Kuma's doing something. Kuma's flying towards the red line. Moving with a purpose. A purpose at this point in the manga we didn't know exactly what for, but purpose nonetheless. He's been turned into a pure, unthinking, living weapon. And I think that's pretty much true still at this point. But there's like another factor there that we don't know. That something about the soul, something about instinct, something about love. There's some other power within Kuma that's given him some level of like agency. Here we get our first real look at Egghead Island behind Jimbei, Bonnie, Chopper, and Luffy. Oda, as always, is like a master of perspective. He has the camera in terms of like where we're getting the view from for this panel, like very low to the ground, very wide angle. Would be something that like creates a lot of depth, whereas if it was a closed angle, it would look, basically it'd be covering how would I say, Jimbei, the Straw Hats, and Bonnie. They would look a lot bigger, and the background would look a lot closer. But Oda is like just a master of kind of manipulating that distance from quote-unquote camera and the subjects, putting them at like this kind of like cinematic angle to make Egghead, to really show how massive Egghead Island is, all while keeping Jinbei especially relatively in perspective of how big he's supposed to be. Pretty awesome. Oh yeah, the food is like a hologram. So funny. Bonnie says, we're talking about something out of a comic strip or a fantasy world. I kind of, now that I'm like, I want to read a One Piece, I want to read a comic within One Piece. That'd be kind of like a funny meta thing. I don't see that very often. I've seen it in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure in part 3, Stardust Crusaders. But other than that, I haven't seen too many mangas within a manga when it's not about making manga. We get a little bit of information up here about the kind of geography and climate of Egghead Island, where while the island is a tropical place, it's actually a winter island. Vegapunk created a island air conditioning so that they can control the temperature of the island itself. Because how climate works in One Piece basically is every island has like a specific season: winter, summer, fall, spring, and then there's basically a winter version of summer. So like a summer island would have winter still; it would just be like much warmer winter. But so each island still has its 4 seasons, but they typically, like, their average is their kind of category that they fall under. So a winter island, their winter is going to be very snowy, very cold. Drum Island being the kind of quintessential example. Now, like, in the real world, that's kind of how it works as well, at least in most of my experience. So like a Los Angeles would be like a summer, and even in Los Angeles in the winter, it's still like some areas it's still just 70 degrees. In other areas, a little bit further away from the coast in Los Angeles County, it becomes like 60. Yeah, my wife and I are big JoJo fans. We've watched the anime for parts 1 through 6, and we are currently reading part 7, Steel Ball Run. Amazing, really good. I like that Atlas has just been punching shit. That she's been in the panels here. And punching the holograms. Because Atlas has these light pressure gloves. Now I thought here we were going to be setting up like a Kizaru counter. Something. Hasn't really become a thing yet. But the Seraphim use light-based beams. The Pacifistas light-based beams, and I would not be surprised if Cypherpole and the Navy had some type of like laser guns at this point that have been created. And hopefully Straw Hats like Usopp, Frankie or something have taken some of this technology with them. I can't imagine it. They're pirates. They had to like just put some in their pockets or something. Then we get to see Cypherpole Zero pulling up. Get some Lucci, some Kaku, Sissy. And they're kind of just going over the Vegapunk satellites. And we also see that they're packing at least one Seraphim. And I believe they have the S-Snake with them as well. I think the most interesting thing going on here at the end of the chapter is that Lucci at least is recognizing that this is weak. even for them, even for agents of the world government. Weird, they're asking them to assassinate the most useful person in the world, person that's benefiting the global population probably more than anybody else directly. And in terms of like what else is going on in the world, Lucci can't help but bring up that does this have anything to do with what happened in Lucia? Kaku kind of implies like, hey, you're not even that Lucia. That what is that? That doesn't even exist. What are you talking about, man? Don't get us in trouble. Lucy's like, the last thing a man keenly perceptive as you should be doing, looking for answers. Lucci has a lot of pride though and believes in his own strength, so it's something a little bit commendable about Lucci. He might be an asshole, but he is his own person. Right, on to 1063. Ooh, getting some Blackbeard versus Law. Ooh. Looks like Guzan is completely destroyed Cracker. They're about to get well, they just picked up Pudding. Obviously, Blackbeard is also after the One Piece. You know, wants to be king of the world, all this kind of stuff. So ultimately, is going to need to be able to find 4 road poneglyphs, read them, and you know, according to Roger was too early. The most obvious reason he was too early is because the 3 ancient weapons weren't available, namely Poseidon and namely Uranus, the Mother Flame. Basically, I would say that the Nika fruit wasn't out there yet. Now, Pudding's thing. Pudding is what, part of the Three-Eye Clan? And at some point, he matures enough or whatever, that Third Eye will allow her to read the language on poneglyph, and thus making her potentially like another Nico Robin. As far as like Big Head Island, or no, it's Big Head Island. As far as Big Cake Island, Pudding hasn't got to that point yet. Curious if Blackbeard has a plan for that. Blackbeard is a pretty smart dude. Done a lot of research about other races. Done a lot of research about devil fruits and ancient weapons, poneglyphs, I'm sure. So if he knows some secrets of this race that Pudding part of, then he might know how to kind of accelerate them. Kind of how I think of it. When we were reading last week, Blackbeard saw the Seraphim, and he pretty much seemed like he knew right away that they had some Lunarian traits. They had probably been created from the bloodline element. of the Lunarian. And that's probably a big part of the reason why he retreated relatively easily from Amazon Lily. Oh yeah, guys, we're starting to get the outfit changes. Always love the outfit changes. In terms of like an art perspective on Oda, like I just want to remind everybody how kind of crazy it is that Oda takes the time to change everybody's outfit and have them be, you know, relatively high detailed, because he's got to draw that every single time. If you look back at like the Naruto manga when it was coming out, when they got to part 2, everybody kind of starts wearing the same clothes. It becomes much easier to draw because Kishimoto was health-wise not doing so well by the time they were getting into part 2. So anytime like you see like Oda having to remember the designs for all these characters and actually executing on all their outfits and their different traits and how they look and stuff, like they have completely different sizes, they have different proportions. It's incredibly challenging to draw. But Oda's like a very fast drawer, so he's, I mean, you can imagine after nearly 30 years of just practicing every single day, got it down. If you want to know what Oda draws compared to not draw, because manga artists, you know, they have several assistants a lot of the time. The assistants can help them make those weekly deadlines by helping draw, you know, they'll get assigned panels typically. And the assistants will draw the panels, and then the actual artist themselves will go back and redraw or correct and all that kind of stuff. But what Oda specifically does is he draws anything that moves, so that it has that kind of consistency across the series. So if a wind is blowing against a tree, like he's got to draw the tree. If it's raining, he's got to draw anything that's interacting with the rain. And then of course he draws any living thing, a robot. Abe in the chat says, do you remember the old mayor guy of Luffy's village? Said, fate, when Luffy becomes a pirate, does he know something? Or am I going too deep? Does he know anything? I can't remember that guy's name. He's got a goofy name. But you're right that he does. Occasionally when we cut back over to Luffy's hometown and stuff, he'll often have like a little thing like, Luffy, blah. I do think he knows a little bit, because he has connections with Shanks and he has connections with Garp. That's just like the minimal connection. We also know that Roger comes from the East Blue, which doesn't mean that he like visited, that he met Roger or anything, but with how kind of compartmentalized the world of One Piece is, if something happens within East Blue, most of the people in the world that hear about it are going to be within the East Blue. So, he's kind of an older guy, so he's been kind of watching a lot of the stuff happen since then, and has enough of a connection with Garp that I think he knows. He knows a little bit, and I think part of it too is there's this whole like underlying thing in One Piece where a lot of the people in the world don't say anything because they don't want to die. Right? If they know what's going on. Like when Luffy beat Crocodile and then got a big bounty increase from what, 30 million to 100 million. Anybody who pays attention consistently can say, oh, this guy obviously beat Crocodile's ass. That makes sense. But you're not allowed to say it. We also just had Lucci talking about Lucia. Not allowed to say that, but you can say it anyways. But you're kind of risking, if you're just like an average Joe, you're risking getting maybe disappeared by a cipher pull. That's, they got cipher pull agents working everywhere undercover, so you gotta be careful with what you say. I think a lot of people in the One Piece world have an idea of what's going on, or they at least have the idea that the world government is extremely shady. Extremely shady. Yeah, it's always a good idea to take a good look at the background of One Piece with all the detail. Yeah, I agree. You can really get a lot of... That's part of the thing that makes like manga and graphic novels and stuff. But specifically manga, I think, does it better than any of those other forms, in my opinion. Is if you're reading a book, you gotta like sit there and type out and describe exactly what Egghead looks like. There's a giant soda cup with the word food off the top and a straw that's like the chimney, and it just doesn't work well in a book format. But in a comic, all that like we can say extra information can be drawn, so that same information's getting across, but maybe in a more natural way, in my opinion. And yeah, that's part of the reason I love manga. Yeah, it makes sense. Despite the misinformation, many people know that Luffy beat Crocodile. Yeah. 100% agreed. And it's so sad seeing Kuma's likeness being used as like this big mean cop. And here we got the pacifista police or whatever attacking them, and Bonnie says, "Stop." This is where it's like confirmed that Kuma is Bonnie's dad. So one thing I want to talk about briefly, just because I find it very endlessly fascinating, Oda constantly uses this transitional panel technique that I don't see in really hardly any other mangas. Where here on the bottom left, you have the bigger panel, you have the middle panel, and the one to the left that's all the same, and it's just divided into 3 chunks really quickly, and all the chunks match, which means this is how Oda kind of keeps the perspective of time and everything. So what Oda is showing with the transition down here on the bottom left is that we are transitioning to a scene that is happening at the same time as this explosion. I got that like throat itch. So I might have to go get a drink of water. Be right back. You know what's so cute is my son is awake right now, and he watches me on the TV, even though he knows, he knows a little bit about One Piece. Hi, Archer. Hi, buddy. But he's 3 years old. He's out in the living room watching the stream on the TV. That's so. All right. So when we go to the next page, this next scene should be happening at the same time because of the transitional panel. So at the same time, and he uses the transitional panel going into it to confirm it that this, in the top right here, this big panel, the wave, matches the two panels to the right. And how I see him do it at other times where he shows time passing is the first panel, so the one that would be on the far right, would show like a bird in the sky in the distance. And then the middle panel would show the bird a little bit bigger, implying that it's getting closer. And then the third panel would show it like flying right over their heads right now, and it's the closest. And that would show that, maybe a couple minutes have passed. They'll do it sometimes with going from night to morning. First panel will be darker, and brightening up morning. It's a pretty cool thing to pay attention to. The Heart Pirates, Law's crew, they're getting attacked. We hear Zahaha, and we know this is Blackbeard, obviously. And Law gets transformed into a hot chick. Turns into a big titty goth BF. And every great male One Piece fan is like slightly confused about how they feel about it. And I love that Oda does it. Ah, careful, the kids are watching. He's probably playing with a toy or something. So here, Law breaks through the disease that swaps his gender with just hockey. So enough hockey can negate devil fruit abilities, which is what he learned fighting Big Mom, where he couldn't just use make a big room and then teleport Big Mom off the side of Onigashima. Where hockey was too crazy, so that's how he learned how to do the same. We see that Jesus Burgess has the strong fruit, but pretty good fruit for him. Not exactly the craziest fruit in the world, but the fact that he's got maybe one of the least crazy fruits among the Blackbeard Pirates, that's scary. And then in the bottom left, we get another transitional panel showing that this is going to a scene happening at about the same time. And of course, this is happening at the same time. They're now down at the island. These guys move fast. Yeah, Blackbeard definitely has a crazy crew. How tight are they exactly? A little bit unknown. I think his core, like, what, 3 dudes? Those are his diehards, right? Trusted people. Outside of that, got Kuzan, Shiryu, Paulo Pizarro, something like that, and man, what's the guy that there's like another super ugly guy that has like the glug fruit, shoots the little fireballs, and Katarina Devon. None of them are trustworthy for his crew at all in terms of the long term. Is there a scenario where maybe the crew will not help Blackbeard if it comes down to their own life? Possibly. There's some implications that part of the reason the Rocks pirates fell apart is because there wasn't like super strong crew solidarity. That some of the crew didn't really like Rocks. So they're gonna watch out for themselves first, basically. And if Blackbeard is Rocks D Beck Mark II, then that could be something that repeats. See a lot of parallels. But we also see a lot of inversions. Blackbeard could just be bigger, better Rocks, and say he crew actually fully believe. And maybe those other crewmates that I talked about who aren't as tight with him, maybe they want to, maybe they will like believe in each more in the future. Yeah, Kuzan's a big wild card, and I think Blackbeard knows that, but man, whew, it's a double-edged sword for sure, Blackbeard. And yeah, Buggy has pretty much the most loyal crew besides Luffy. Believe in Luffy. Kind of a different one. Buggy is just surrounded by super fans and like 2 super powerful dudes. N64. Go back. And we get to see Kuzan as a Blackbeard pirate. Looks pretty cool, I think. I love how everybody in One Piece wears these like jackets, and they just don't use this. I'm like, what is holding it over their shoulders? I need some of that. Because I can try to do that in real life, and it's not going to look as cool. But damn, does it look really cool in the manga. And let's see. We go back to Blackbeard versus Law. We'd see that Blackbeard talks about, I didn't hear that your powers could do that. He researches stuff so much. He does so much preparation for going into a fight. Before making his big move. He also has a little bit of a tendency to be overconfident, which we saw in Impel Down and Marineford. But generally, really well prepared. He probably, I mean, he must have been prepared to fight any of the crews, even Wano. I'd be really curious to know how much he knows about Luffy's fruit, especially that true nature. Obviously, he saw the bounty poster. And I'd be shocked if he didn't know that was the sun god. But him showing up here meant that he could have been running into the Straw Hat Pirates. That he felt like he could take Luffy in a 1v1. That he felt like his Logia Devil Fruit, probably especially, would be able to counter Luffy's fruit. I don't really think... I think they would have had a tough time with the Straw Hat Pirates, I'm gonna put it very bluntly. Divided Blackbeard Pirates crew, like, you know, this isn't the whole crew, versus the entire Straw Hats, I think they get messed up. Yeah, if we think carefully, we don't know exactly much about Blackbeard at all, just that he's kind of like this opposite. Very true. Coming up on my videos very soon, I'm going to make like one of my videos from, let's say 8 months ago, did the 5 Elders Explained. I'm not sure if you saw Abe at the time. I've grown a lot as a channel since then, but I went through every single panel of the 5 Elders one by one. I analyzed each panel from top left to bottom left super thoroughly. Made like a 45-minute video on there, kind of banged it. I'm going to do the same for Blackbeard. Blackbeard, he doesn't have that many appearances. Most of his information is pretty comes in small chunks. So I'm going to see what I can learn going very thoroughly from, you know, Jaya to the end of Egghead, I guess, his last appearance. Oh, you did see that one? Yeah, so I want to do the same thing for Blackbeard. And, yeah, just want to really see if I can find any connections, and find any patterns that that has planted throughout the series. I think he's the type of the guy that does. I think the five elders stuff, like, that I found, it was pretty dang spot on. Even the kind of hierarchy within the five elders fit what I saw in Egghead Island. So, I'm excited about it. A Blackbeard video will go viral, hopefully. Yeah, I hope. If I've learned anything from doing One Piece content for about 2 years now, like, I don't know it's gonna go viral. I mean, sometimes I have like an idea of what's gonna do, at least like to a certain level well, but in terms of like what ends up doing, like surpassing my expectations and stuff, and really hard to tell. And a big part of that's because of titles and thumbnails on YouTube are annoyingly just as important in performance as the video itself. So if you can't come up with a good title and thumbnail, or like execute on that, then sometimes the video just doesn't go. In fact, I made like after the Five Elders video, maybe a few weeks later, I made like a kind of part 2 to that, and that video got like no views. Didn't go anywhere. So I probably effed up the intro or something, or the title and thumbnail. I don't think super good. But I think if I can come up with a solid thumbnail, like the title, I think it's pretty easy. A Blackbeard video like that, then I think it definitely has good potential. And then in terms of like, maybe it'll catch on later if it doesn't do well initially. I'm excited though, because the thing that I like about doing these analysis too is I learn more about, and then I can take that knowledge and apply it to anything I do with One Piece. And it just, even if a certain video doesn't do well or whatever, then I have still gained knowledge to make future stuff better. I think it kind of pays off more. Yeah, don't do vids in parts. I agree. Doing vids in parts doesn't work that. In fact, like, I got this super long. My wife and I are doing. I told you earlier how we're reading JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Steel Ball Run, part 7 of JoJo's. We're doing a podcast show for our kind of second channel called Go Go JoJo, and it's just like podcast about part 7. We've recorded a few episodes already covering the first, 9 volumes or so. And as a kind of preamble to all of that, we've been making a JoJo's like recap type of thing event essentially, because a lot of our viewers on that channel don't know anything about JoJo. So their recap video of JoJo's is I don't even know how long it's going to end up being, but just pure recording time, not edited at all yet, like 6 hours. I'm like, I could put this into parts, like here's a recap for part 1 and part 2, here's a recap for part 3, here's a recap for part 4. No, I'm just going to have it be one big ass video, even if it's 3 hours long. I don't know how long it's going to be, multiple hours. And I think that video would do infinitely better than if it was all divided into chunks. And then our podcast episodes would be covering 3 volume chunks each of Field Ball Run. So it'll end up being 7 or 8 episodes total without the chapter. Oh, you thinking about making your channel into a podcast channel? Yeah, I mean, podcast channels, they're fun to do. They're like relatively, they're a good way to get started, and they kind of grow slowly, but they can also, I think they do well for like the amount of knowledge and stuff that they take, and yeah, I think it's a pretty good direction to go. And if you can like have like a podcast be about something specific, then like the more specific the better. It usually has a better chance of doing well. Have video and stuff, just does better. I think that sounds good. I love this attack on Blackbeard. This Law messed up Big Mom with this stuff. And Law correctly points out that the Blackbeard pirates all have the same weakness, the sea. But Blackbeard accepts the risk. He's like, it's a double-edged sword, but the power that you get from that double-edged sword is worth it for him, and kind of hard to argue with him. The big question here, though, is if he's doing the One Piece, there's an implied possibility that having Devil Fruit abilities can make reaching Laugh Tale maybe more complicated. Oh, nice. You're going to invite me first? That's cool. I like that. I've only done one guest podcast thing. Isn't it? Going on their channel called. I think it's like the Straw Hat Line. They have a podcast. Hate what YouTube has done with how they lay out subscriptions. So hard to find. Oh yeah, Straw Hat Sit Down Podcast. That was on an episode of theirs about 2 months ago, I think. Pretty fun. Alright, Deep Pudding out of 3 eyes, as we already knew. If Mama is still alive, you won't be talking like that much longer. But, they're like, hey, Big Mom is dead. We don't really know that. Probably not true, but maybe it is. I kind of hope Big Mom is gone for good. already weakened and got blasted by volcano magma. That sounds, even for Big Mom, that sounds like something that could potentially, we'll have to see. But Blackbeard, being the asshole that he always is, busts out the Black Vortex and damn, Devil Fruit ability off. Pulls what I remember when you fought Ace. Black Vortex also is like super gravity. Pulls Ace right into his hands. That's the fight right there. Like the same as being grabbed by a Sea Prism or have Sea Prism cuffs on. So pretty nasty. Pretty nasty. And we see in this fight he's doing his using his Tremor Fruit and the Dark Fruit at the exact same time, one in each hand, like it's like a stand ability or something. No awakened abilities that I've seen from Blackbeard yet. If somebody awakens his own fruit, Blackbeard's definitely one of the, not awakens his own fruit. If somebody awakens a Logia fruit, Blackbeard is probably one of the top dogs that can do it. And I love seeing Fleet Admiral Sakazuki hating his job. Feels good. Love it. Meanwhile, at the same time, on the Future Island Egghead, Bonnie's stop command seems like it stopped the pacifista for whatever reason. We get some interesting information from Jimbei about the perception of Bartholomew. If you don't mind me saying this, Bonnie, here's what I know about Kuma. He started off as a wicked king of the Sorbet Kingdom until the people drove him off and he became a pirate. I'm like, wow. That's some messed up propaganda. That he's painted in. Crazy. And it just shows how shows why Vegapunk wants to make like the internet, because this is how people think of things. They don't know it. They take the worst possible version because that's all they know. I mean, frankly, like, Jimbei is somebody that knows what's going on, what things are about, and he's really pretty much wrong about everything that he thinks he knows about. Bonnie says, "My father told me that he was from a special people. So what? That doesn't give them the right to experiment on him. Doesn't give them the right to kill him." And, yeah. Luffy says what we all think. You tell him. That when the world government does that to people, steals things from them, steals the kingdom, experiments on their bodies, like, that's a crime. That's just theft, right? And kind of like taking the things that matter too. They're not taking material possessions, they're taking them. They're taking their like who they are part of. It reminds me a lot of Luffy when he's fighting Crocodile in the tomb or Alabasta, and Crocodile's getting really frustrated with Luffy, like why are you doing this? Luffy's like, you haven't given back what you stole, the kingdom. Which really just kind of illustrates to me how Luffy sees the world and how he sees stealing things. He's a pirate. He's okay with stealing money. He's okay with stealing boats. Because that's not taking that from a person. Like, you're not taking a part of a person. Because ultimately, if you just take somebody's money, like, they're still alive. And Luffy wouldn't do that either, especially if it caused them, like, not to be able to. But the way that the world government, like, experiments on people, such as, like, they would definitely, like, I think it's Big Mom and Doflamingo that employed Caesar to make giantification, like drugs, to create weapons. The way that they have to exploit people to do that is so gross. So gross. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. So, like, what Crocodile was doing to Alabasta is, like, not what a pirate is supposed to be to Luffy. Luffy has a very specific idea of what a pirate is. A lot different than what most of the other people in the world pirate is. And I personally think of the world government as, like, basically a gigantic pirate, the biggest pirate, because that's just essentially what they are, right? They're a big pirate crew that won a long time ago. You get to see some of more of the kind of geography of Egghead Island with the Labo phase and book records. See the connection, Egghead and the Sky Islands as well. Really, really cool. The entire, like, existence of the Sky Islands is kind of really recontextualized in this arc. And there's, like, the implication that the clouds stuff, what is it, the White Sea guy, like, there's a pretty strong implication, in my opinion, that all of that was created 900 years ago by the Ancient Kingdom, when the world was at around the same technological level or higher than Egghead Island is right now. That was created back then, either as a kind of populating the Earth, or maybe it was created to get away from something that was imminent back then. The true nature hasn't been fully kind of revealed yet, but Oda's been laying the groundwork for a really long time. More outfit changes, yay! And I love here that we get the reveal that Vegapunk knows Dragon. Pretty cool. The film red cover page. Pretty cool indeed. Now Oda normally does all his manga, like the actual weekly chapters and volume releases. Those are all done like analog, not digital. But this cover page kind of looks like it was, but his cover pages, the colored pages that he normally does, I don't know, back in 2014 or so, he switched to doing the color stuff all digital. Sometimes they'll release like a time lapse of him creating it, because most of the digital art tools have some type of time lapse feature, and he really likes the feedback when you draw with paper and stuff. But it seems like he's opened up a lot more to digital art, and finds it pretty handy for the coloring portion. Yeah, all the questions get answers after we start knowing who Emu. Yeah. Very, very true. I'm like, when I think about who Emu is, I guess I always think like, why is Emu so kind of like covered, you know? Like why hide what Emu looks like? This is not like a real theory or anything, by the way. Just this is like kind of like inferring on a writing, like in terms of like a narrative style, like why you would do that. And one of the more interesting ideas is if assuming Emu had the immortality operation, how they continue to live, maybe Emu had to like steal somebody's body. So I wouldn't be that surprised if Emu had somebody, some important figure from the Void Century's body, soul, to have an immortal body. And there's a possibility too that Emu is like the most obvious, right, is that Emu is a man. But there's a possibility that because they haven't been revealed, that maybe Emu is a woman, or maybe Emu is a man who's stolen a woman's body. Tough to know exactly. I also think it's really interesting how Emu isolates themselves. Like they're not, like they've been living for so long, but they just hang out in that one room all the time, surrounded by flowers, looking at a big painting of someone they obviously care immensely about. Meaning they're living that isolation, they're choosing to be immortal for a reason, because they still desire something. Yeah, I think there's a possibility that they stole Lily's body. For sure. Maybe wants to steal. Maybe that's kind of falling apart a little bit now, and that's part of the reason why they stay where they're at. There's a possibility that then there's the possibility that they'd want to steal Vivi's body. Part of the reason why Emu said, "I desire Vivi." Definitely think it's a possibility. Definitely. I think there's also the possibility that Emu stole Joy Boy's body, right? No, Emu has possession of a giant straw hat. We know that Emu we know that Joy Boy and Lily would have been allies. Um, so maybe Lily actually respected or loved Joy Boy, and that Emu was jealous about that, and so then became Joy Boy, but still didn't get what they want, which would be Lily, and thus they're pursuing Lily's grave or something, and because Lily's gone, like they're like, maybe I want Vivi now. Just kind of spitballing, no real crazy thorough analysis stuff, but I think those are possibilities that people don't really talk about yet. I need to do a Emu explain video as well. If it turns out that Lily became bad after after like the betrayal to Joy Boy, or like who betrayed who, yeah, there's definitely like some possible misdirections and stuff going on there for sure. And then Joy Boy's inability to finish the promise. Yeah, Joy Boy got betrayed. Yeah, yeah, there is like this interesting like Joy Boy got betrayed, which is like I think there's a real possibility too that Joy Boy and Emu were friends at some point, something, right? And that something changed, that they had different ideals that were clashing. That's where maybe the conflict came out. Maybe maybe Joy Boy hated cherry pie, and they were like, "We're throwing hands." Oh, no worry about the grammar. When I am in people's chats, like, English is my native language, and I still just can't hardly do it. Just going, "Blah, blah, blah." No worries. Is Zoro kicking off Caribou? Fantastic. So here, Lilith explains that the power source is fire. Of course, they're talking about the undying flame, the mother flame, flame that is suspiciously similar to the kind of flames from the sun god Nika form. And then people have also pointed out, since chapters and since the mother flame was fully revealed, that the mother flame exists in the cover story of NL's cover story when he finds the glyphs wall, implying that the mother flame is what powered the entire ancient kingdom. That's something stolen back then, and probably used after being stolen to create the world in the way that it is, where it is massive amount of water, very little land except the red line, which serves the purpose of dividing people isolated, keeping information compartmentalized to small groups. And even if, and then once the flame's stolen, like once you got it and you use it, that's pretty much it. If you don't have access to um, Sun God fruit. Zoro's like, you got booze, buddy. Now get out of here. I like that. Yeah, he is like, yeah, Zoro, all things considered, he was very nice to Caribou. Very nice. All right, they run into baby Seraphim Jimbei, S Shark. Got the black wings and white hair. Denarian. Got the green bloodline elements, bracelet or whatever that gives him the devil fruit ability, the swim. Such a powerful devil fruit ability for a fishman. Wow. I love how like the Straw Hat Pirates so good at like protecting each other and standing their ground, because this, I mean, this is a warlord level opponent basically. I think the red line, or Abe in chat says, I think the red line is artificial, like especially because of the girl's vision in Fishman Island, the prophecy that'll be. Yeah. I 100% agree that the red line is, for a lack of complete context, artificial, and for the same reason because of the prophecy. But then on a world building reasoning is also because of the migration of can't quite remember what the whales are called, but the laboon whales, right? That their migration patterns should be going through what is the red line, but they can't because there's a big line there implying that they have a uh, genetic unconscious like knowledge that that's the way they're supposed to go. That it was I went for a long time ago and way longer than even that. That there was no red line there, and that they would just swim through their way back when the world was closer to an all blue type of situation. Or to me, that's like the most um, concrete evidence. Like, how do you even argue the red line natural if giant whales that have existed for surely hundreds of thousands of years um, have like if it is real, then their instincts are to just smash into a gigantic wall. It doesn't make any sense. And we get to see Edison the Thinker Vegapunk Probably my second to least favorite of the Vegapunks. I don't. The one that I care about the besides Edison, probably Pythagoras. I think mostly just looks weird. Doesn't really do anything too crazy. Here's Pythagoras. Yeah, Usopp. As said in an SBS or interview that Usopp will be the weakest crew, but still stronger than many people. Yeah, and I guess I do think Usopp is the weakest, but I guess that's like his purpose, right? His dream is to basically become the bravest. You can really only be brave if you are like weak. If you should have no chance, you are doing something. You're fighting even when there should be no chance of winning. That's like peak bravery. You're putting your life on the line for other people when you're even weaker than them. Like it's kind of insane, but it's also brave. And then we get York the Greedy. She's a big girl. Yeah, and still becomes Soga King. Yeah, I mean that's Usopp is a special character, but he kind of needs. He's gonna get some big W's coming up, but his highs and his lows are pretty wild. I think my favorite thing about Usopp post time skip probably is just like his relationship with Luffy and Chopper. Like he's so goofy and funny, and his reactions to everything is always hilarious. Usopp is like he's like a stand-in for us. Like if we just got plopped into the One Piece world, we'd be the weakest, and we'd be like shocked at all this crazy shit happening. And as I've been saying through these chapters this morning, Egghead is an island of the past, even if it looks like it's part of the future. Oh yeah, Usopp is like everybody's best friend. Yeah, Usopp is so good at making friends. So good at making friends. And we get the chapter that we get the official Stella reveal. Chaka the Good, Vegapunk, Auto 1 says there was a once a man who gave his life for archaeology, brought that kingdom's existence to light. And that timeline matches up with the period in which a certain machine discovered elsewhere was originally produced. A certain machine, I guess, is I would assume it is. That's interesting. A certain machine was discovered. Are they just talking about the machine that holds the mother flame? Talking about an ancient weapon? There was once a man who gave his life for archaeology. This is obviously implied to be Clover. Also has the possibility of being um, another O'Haran archaeologist. Brought up, can't remember what his full name is. Plow. We get some cool information about the Void Century here. Shaka says the Void Century, as it is called, is the history of a war between this extremely advanced civilization of the past and a group, 20 kingdoms. The 20 kingdoms won the war, later developed the world government, creating the world we know today. And in order to ensure that the ideals of that ancient kingdom could not be passed down, they erased all traces of it from. In order to ensure that the ideals of that ancient kingdom could not be passed down, the ideals of. So, the world government being the 20 kingdoms, the ancient kingdom being led by presumably Joy Boy. And what would Joy Boy's ideals be as the leader? Well, I have to imagine that they'd be about having the freedom to pursue your dreams, have the freedom to have food, laugh. What other ideals could it be? Because, or did they just fail to? So the D is part of what is passed down, or like the meaning of the D has to be tied to these same ideals. I guess I'm like, why would why would the world government not want? Why would they want to stop that? What's so bad about it? Well, in the real society, real world, the reason that anything like this would ever be done is ultimately for money and power over other people. All we know about Joy Boy is that he was, for one, the first pirate, the first person to ever be a pirate, and that he is from the ancient kingdom. That's pretty much all that we know. But if he's from the ancient kingdom and then became a pirate, to me, that means he's connected to the ancient kingdom, but he's not necessarily, like, if he's a pirate, he's not really of the ancient kingdom. It's kind of like a complicated thing. I guess the way I think about it is, imagine if somebody who's a pirate, say like Luffy, hometown gets attacked. He's gonna go back and fight and help them, even though he's a pirate. And the people from, like, the people that knew Joy Boy, um, they're gonna be affected by somebody like that, by such like a charismatic person. They are going to have his ideals kind of imprinted on them, even if he's a pirate and they're not a pirate. So it's kind of like, it's kind of a weird connection. Um, so I'd say that Joy Boy is connected to the ancient kingdom. and he is also seems to me like he's a separate entity, but that he is like an ally. Yeah, maybe the kingdom was like, we don't like you, but we need your help, or maybe they're like, it's so interesting, like the mystery of like why he became a pirate and how other people would feel about that. Right? If he's the first one, he's doing something that nobody's ever done before. I will say, if the ancient kingdom is super advanced technologically, the rest of the world is not. As far as what we see Shaka stating here is that the ancient kingdom was super technologically advanced, but the rest of the world is not necessarily like on that same level, which which implies that the ancient kingdom was a closed nation. If it was open, the rest of the world should be closer to the same technological level, right? If it's closed, they can evolve technologically at a much faster rate, especially if they discover some really powerful technology such as the mother flame. If they have the mother flame, they have this unlimited power source and they're a closed nation, they're going to start becoming like the other places in the world. If they find that out, they're going to be start freaking out a little bit. Now, if that power source is stolen and used to create the world that we know now, then I think it starts getting tied back to a lot of other parallels in the story, such as the Alabasta Kingdom, having the rain stolen, having the water stolen, going to Wano and having their food. Now, if you're a closed nation, people aren't allowed in or out. So Joy Boy becoming the first pirate leaves illegally. It's that's what makes him a pirate. The leaders of the ancient kingdom might be against Joy Boy, but the people that knew him in the ancient kingdom, they don't necessarily have that same. They're probably like, man, I wish I could go. And that could be the start of the first age of pirates, right? So I guess my prediction at this point of what the ancient kingdom is, what Joy Boy is, what the other 20 kingdoms are, is that the ancient kingdom, a super advanced technological civilization that was closed so that they could grow and become more powerful than all the other nations in the world at the time. That they had to team up as a group of 20 to defeat the ancient kingdom. And they ultimately managed to steal the unlimited power source that is the mother flame and use that to erase the ancient kingdom around that time of the conflict. Joy Boy leaves the ancient kingdom to see the rest of the world to be free, right? Because if you live in a closed nation, you can't really be free. It's just not possible. So then when the 20 kingdoms attack the ancient kingdom, that's where a lot of Joy Boy's friends, family, the maybe even the country that he also still loves, they like need his help. So he comes back and fights for them, fights with them, teams up maybe with some people that were, his enemies because he left as a pirate. But in terms of this conflict, they team up like Garp and Roger on God Valley or something, and fight back and lose. So Robin asks Vegapunk here, like, did you learn this truth straight from the world government? Shaka says, no, whether affiliated with the government or not, the result would be the same. He doesn't have any special privileges. He went around the world government to seek out this knowledge. And obviously, at this point, we know that Vegapunk cloned himself, sent him to Elbaf, where the O'Haran research has been kind of hoarded in the library, and learned it himself. That's kind of what kicks off this entire thing. I think or Abby says, I think you were right about the ancient kingdom and the void century and all that kind of stuff. But every time we deduce something, more questions. Yes. Which is a little bit kind of, if you make a deduction and you don't have more questions, like maybe you're not as on the money as you think you are. In my experience with like analysis like this, like I'm careful enough with my analysis, then when we do start to get more information in the future, then it should still fit piece, right? I shouldn't be in terms of like a puzzle. We've got like a jigsaw puzzle, and we've got like some big gaps in the puzzle that still haven't been filled, but I still have pieces that fit. I just don't know where they go yet. And maybe I dropped a few pieces on the floor and I'm still looking for them. But I should never find, I should almost never find a piece that just doesn't fit anywhere. And, we see how painful remembering what she lost on O'Hara is for Robin. Robin feels that pain. And then we get to go back and see much younger dragon. A little bit older than Robin is right now in this. I was about to comment about puzzle. Maybe this puzzle is one piece Oh yeah, it's like the one piece missing in the puzzle. Ah, that's funny. We have the Elbaf giants here saving all these books. You would need a giant to get these books out of the water. How many there are, how heavy that would be, and they don't have the machines to get it out. You can't get the machines over there. Number one, number two, you don't have machines anyways to get them out. So you just need like these gigantic people that can just do it with their hands. I guess like part of me is like it would make sense if the One Piece was one piece of like what was left behind the ancient kingdom, that the people who were trying to cover it all up, they didn't understand the true value of it, like how the world government people didn't understand the true value of the book, so they didn't really pay attention to getting rid of them. That there's maybe just one piece left of the ancient kingdom that wasn't fully covered up that explains what happened. They just didn't know how important that was. Possibility. Your boy planted it before he died or whatever. Maybe it got sent away with somebody who had the pawpaw fruit at the time. Um, to me, it seems the most likely thing that the pawpaw fruit would have been used for during the Void Century is to disperse the poneglyphs, right? Otherwise, how do those big ass rocks get almost anywhere? Especially all over the world in all these different places. So there's all this stuff in here about Dragon being the leader of a group called the Freedom Fighters. They don't have many resources, but what happened here in Ohara changes Dragon from somebody who basically seeks nonviolence, somebody who's willing to create a military force to protect people. That he's not like seeking violence, but he is understanding like I'm not going to be able to, like me, Dragon, I'm not going to be able to make a difference by just pure peace. So Dragon goes on to create the Revolutionary Army. And the Revolutionary Army's the main way they do their shit is they kind of seed rebellion within kingdoms and help them execute rebellion to leave the world, move towards freedom. So they're not much of an antagonizer. They're more of a um, they lift people up. So why did Roger laugh? Why do I believe Luffy reading the exact same thing will get angry. Red line after action. It's a good question. I think Luffy will come to a different conclusion when he reads something that I think is, deeply sad. I'd say the laughter is primarily to cover like a deep sadness. Luffy getting angry and destroying the red line makes sense because he'll understand that the red line itself is a major force of oppression, even with the consequences. Like, I don't think Roger could destroy the red line. I think he's too early. That him being too early left him powerless to do anything about what he learned on Laugh Tale. But Luffy's gonna find a way and destroy it. And I think the first time this is set up very clearly is Arlong Park, where um, Luffy, instead of attacking person, he decides to attack the oppressive structure that the person, Arlong, uses to oppress people, to divide people, limit their freedom. And when Luffy reads whatever it is on Laugh Tale, and he learns that the red line's purpose is that the red line wasn't always there, that the red line was made to make people less free, that's gonna piss him. And Luffy would destroy something like that, even if it potentially going to cost him. So Shaka says right here that the O'Haran research is in his brain. Not meaning literally his brain, but within Punk Records. Arlong Park is peak, and we never came back from peak. Yeah, Arlong Park, amazing. And when Robin learns that that captain that saved the books that's carrying O'Haran's will is Saul, through those tears, you know, finds a smile. Really cute smile. She's so happy that she's crying. It's a mixed bag of emotions. Luffy, Chopper, Jinbei, Bonnie, they all find big robot Emmet. All rusted up. The robot exploded, and we see like a little energy or something there. And right in the robot's chest, you can see a little dark outline. And that's going to be Vegapunk, right? That little explosion was him, like, teleporting into the giant robot to plant something for much later. He's showing him how to start flying. Love it. All right, and here's where we meet the smartest man in the world, Dr. Vegapunk, looking like some Albert Einstein looking dude. Yeah, this is when we kind of like kick off into phase 2 of part 1. I feel like Egghead's pretty split into 2 parts. Opening act. Now we've met all the Vegapunk and the main one. Found the Iron Robot. We learned about O'Hara. We learned about the Ancient Kingdom. Just laying the seeds for a lot of really important. And so next week when we read, Sunday, start at 1067. Got through 6 chapters today. That's double the amount of chapters last week. And I think we came up with some pretty interesting stuff about the Ancient Kingdom. Came up with some interesting stuff about Joy Boy's position in there. Came up with some interesting stuff about Mother Flame and why 20 other kingdoms would team up against the Ancient Kingdom. I kind of feel like we really like the thing that I'm the proudest of figuring out this stream is that the Ancient Kingdom was almost certainly a closed nation. I haven't really heard people talk about that very much online, or just period zero. I've never heard. I'm not like deep into like the 1% machine because I don't want other people's ideas like leaking into me at all. Coloring how I see the story, just because I find it interesting. I used to watch a lot, but now since I'm the one trying to come up with unique ideas for the Big Dad community, I try to keep my own ideas separate from stuff like that. But I've really never heard of somebody talking about how the Ancient Kingdom was a closed nation. I don't think that's a super common observation. I think it kind of clearly explains why Luffy would, or why Joy Boy would become a pirate. I think it draws a lot of parallels to other characters and stuff in the story, like Odin and Wano. I wonder what Egghead Island looks like now. The current progression of this. Like if somebody goes there and visits, because the world government, they definitely have done some cleanup on the island. But did they leave anything there, not knowing its importance? Possible. And who would go to Egghead Island at this point of the story? Possibly Law, because he's nearby-ish. He just went to a nearby island, Winter Island. Dragon could drop by Egghead Island. Got a long ways to go, though. He's on the other side of the world. Maybe I should make even like a short video on the Ancient Kingdom, what we learned here. Be interesting. I'll think about it. Yeah, it was a fun stream. Thanks for watching. I'll have a stream on, the next stream will be on Friday. and that's going to be the One Piece Awards, covering the manga specifically. So I'll be sending out the voting for that. So if you haven't checked that out, give it a vote when it comes up, and tune into the stream Friday. Fun. Thank you so much. Thanks, Abe, for hanging out with me in the chat and stuff. It's always fun chatting. I appreciate you a lot. Have a good weekend. Have as good of a time as you can muster for work and stuff. Find few things that you enjoy. All that kind of nice. Be joining stream. All right. Bye bye.